I wake up at 5:30 in the morning, and the first thing I do is check my phone. Not for emails or social messages, but for something far more important: hotel rates, dynamic pricing algorithms, occupancy reports. You see, most people think a hotel stay is simple. You book a room, you check in, you check out. But let me tell you something I learned after spending decades analyzing consumer behavior and watching billions of dollars change hands in this industry. Every single word you say at that front desk can cost you money or save you money. And most travelers have absolutely no idea. The hotel industry is a $40 billion business in the United States alone, and it runs on information asymmetry. They know things you don't know. They've trained their staff to listen for specific phrases, specific words, specific signals that tell them exactly how much they can charge you. And here's what fascinates me about this whole system. It's not malicious, it's just business. But business that you need to understand if you want to keep your hard-earned money in your pocket. I remember the first time I truly understood this dynamic. I was in my 30s, traveling for work, and I made a simple comment at check-in, just a throwaway line about how excited I was for my trip. The desk agent smiled, nodded, and within 60 seconds, I had been upsold on 3 different services I didn't need. Valet parking when I could have parked myself for free. Early check-in that turned out to be available to everyone that day anyway. A room upgrade that cost me $75 more per night, and I paid for all of it because I didn't know what I was doing wrong. That experience taught me something crucial. The words coming out of your mouth at a hotel check-in desk are not casual conversation. They are negotiating points in a transaction you didn't even realize you were negotiating. Let me start with the biggest mistake I see travelers make. They walk up to the front desk and immediately announce their problems. They say things like, "I'm so tired from my flight," or "I've been traveling for 12 hours," or "My back is killing me. I really need a good bed tonight." And the moment those words leave their mouth, they have just told the hotel exactly how to extract more money from them. Here's why this matters. Hotels train their staff in something called needs-based selling. When you announce a problem, you are giving them a need to fill, and they will fill that need with an upgrade, an amenity, a service that costs you money. You're tired? They have a premium room with a better bed for only $50 more per night. Your back hurts? They can upgrade you to a room with a therapeutic mattress for an additional fee. You've been traveling all day? Early check-in is available for $30. The psychology behind this is fascinating. People who express a need are far more likely to pay for a solution to that need. So the first rule is simple. Never announce your problems at check-in. The front desk agent is not your therapist. They are a trained sales professional working in an industry with razor-thin margins who needs to maximize revenue per available room. Now let me talk about another phrase that costs people money every single day. This is a special occasion. Anniversaries, birthdays, honeymoons, retirement celebrations. The moment you announce that you're celebrating something, you have just painted a target on your back, because now the hotel knows something crucial about your psychology. You're willing to spend more, you're emotionally invested in having a good experience, and you're unlikely to push back on additional charges because you don't want to ruin the special nature of your trip. I watched this play out in Charleston 2 years ago. A couple checked in at the desk next to me and immediately told the agent they were celebrating their 25th anniversary. Within minutes, the agent had offered them a complimentary bottle of champagne, which sounds nice until you realize it's a hook. The champagne came with a suggestion for a room upgrade with a better view. $90 per night more. Then a recommendation for the hotel's special anniversary package dinner, $250. Then a couple's massage at the spa, $380. By the time they finished checking in, they had agreed to spend an additional $820 they hadn't planned on spending. The solution is not to lie about why you're traveling. It's simply to keep that information to yourself. Your trip purpose is none of the hotel's business. Now, let me talk about flexibility, because this is where travelers lose enormous amounts of money without realizing it. They walk up to check in and they say things like, "I'm flexible on room type," or "Whatever you have available is fine," or "I'm easy, just give me any room." And what they think they're communicating is that they're pleasant and accommodating. What they're actually communicating is that they have no standards and will accept whatever the hotel wants to give them, which is usually the worst room in the house. Hotels operate on a yield management system. They have different room categories with different profit margins, and they want to fill their lower quality rooms first so they can hold their premium inventory for guests who will pay more for it later. When you announce flexibility, You are telling them to give you bottom tier inventory. The room next to the elevator, the room next to the ice machine, the room with the view of the parking lot, the room that hasn't been renovated since 2005. At a hotel check-in, you should know exactly what you booked, and you should expect to receive exactly that. That's not being difficult. That's being a consumer who understands what they paid for. Here's another costly mistake. Asking about amenities you didn't research before. Booking. When you check in and start asking questions like, do you have a pool? Or is there a gym? Or what time is breakfast? You are telling the hotel that you didn't do your homework. And guests who don't do their homework are much easier to upsell because they clearly don't know what they're doing. A guest who has researched the property knows what's included in their rate. They know what amenities are complimentary and what costs extra. That guest is informed and therefore harder to upsell. But a guest who's asking basic questions about amenities at check-in, that guest is uninformed. And uninformed consumers pay more in every single market. So before you check in, spend 10 minutes on the hotel's website, know what amenities are included, know what services cost extra. This basic research makes you a more informed consumer, and informed consumers always pay less. Now let me address something that costs people money in a different way, being too chatty at check-in. I see this all the time, especially with people who are naturally friendly. They strike up conversations with the front desk agent. They talk about where they're from, what they do for work, why they're visiting, what their plans are, and they think they're being friendly. What they're actually doing is providing the agent with information that can be used to sell them things. Every piece of information you volunteer is a potential need the hotel can fill with a paid service. You mention you're in town for business meetings? They can suggest dry cleaning services, a business center, room service, breakfast. You mention you're visiting family? They can suggest restaurant recommendations at places that have partnerships with the hotel. You mention you like to work out? They can tell you about the premium fitness center that costs $15 per day to access. I'm not saying be rude. I'm saying be professional and brief. The front desk is not the place to make friends. It's a transaction. Treat it like one. Here's a phrase that instantly marks you as someone who will pay whatever they're told to pay. Whatever it costs is fine. People say this when they're tired, when they're in a hurry, when they just want to get to their room. And the moment those words come out, the hotel knows they can charge you pretty much anything and you'll pay it. I watched this in Miami last year. A businessman checked in late at night, clearly exhausted, and when the agent offered him an upgrade, he said, "Sure, whatever it costs is fine. I just need to sleep." The upgrade was $140 per night for 3 nights, $420 for a slightly bigger room with a marginally better view. When you remove price as a consideration, you lose all leverage. Price sensitivity is the only real power consumers have in most transactions. So never, ever say that price doesn't matter to you. Even if it doesn't, let me talk about credit cards for a moment. They check in, and the agent asks for a credit card for incidentals, which is standard procedure. But then the guest says something like, just charge whatever to the card or put everything on there. I'll sort it out later. And what they've just done is give the hotel permission to charge anything they want with no oversight. Hotels make mistakes. They charge for services that were supposed to be complimentary. They charge for amenities that were included in the booking rate. They charge for items from the minibar that weren't consumed. And if you've told them to just charge whatever, you're going to have a much harder time disputing those charges later. The correct approach is to be clear about what can be charged to your card. This level of specificity protects you from unauthorized charges. Here's something most travelers don't realize. When you check in and mention that it's your first time at a property or first time in a city, you've just identified yourself as someone who doesn't know the local market. And people who don't know the local market are much easier to overcharge because they have no basis for comparison. They'll recommend restaurants that pay them referral fees instead of the best restaurants. They'll suggest tours that give them kickbacks instead of the best tours. They'll offer you services at prices that locals would never pay because they know you have no idea what things actually cost. Your defense is to never position yourself as uninformed. Even if it's your first time somewhere, you can say you've done research. This small shift in positioning changes how staff interact with you. Now let me address announcing your departure plans at check-in. People say things like, "I have an early flight tomorrow," or "I need to leave by 6 in the morning," or "I have a meeting first thing so I'll be checking out early," and the hotel immediately sees an opportunity to sell you something. Early checkout? There might be a fee for that. Early flight? They can offer you a breakfast box to go for $15 instead of the complimentary breakfast. Need to leave early? They can arrange a taxi for you at a premium rate instead of letting you find your own transportation. Your checkout time and departure plans are information you provide when you're ready to check out, not when you're checking in. Let me tell you about one of the most expensive phrases I hear travelers use. I'm willing to pay more for a better room. What you've actually done is told the hotel that their standard rooms aren't good enough for you, and you're willing to pay an undefined premium for something better. That's a negotiating disaster. The hotel was going to give you a perfectly good room included in your booking rate, but now that you've said you want something better and you're willing to pay for it, they're going to charge you for an upgrade. Even if they were going to give you that upgrade for free, in any transaction, the moment you signal strong desire for something, the price goes up. Desire is expensive. Indifference is cheap. Here's one more mistake. Complimenting the hotel excessively at check-in. They talk about how excited they are to stay there, how they've heard amazing things, how they've been looking forward to this trip for months. And while this seems like friendly conversation, it's actually weakening your position as a consumer. When you've built up a hotel in your own mind as this incredible destination, you've created enormous psychological pressure on yourself to have a good experience there. And that pressure makes you much more likely to accept substandard service, overlook problems, and pay for upgrades to ensure your experience matches your expectations. The moment emotion enters a transaction, the emotional party pays more. Always. Let me give you the framework I use for every hotel check-in. I walk up to the desk, I provide my name and confirmation number. I answer questions. I'm asked. I don't volunteer information I'm not asked for. I confirm the rate I'm paying matches my booking. I ask for a room away from elevators and ice machines. I verify what time checkout is. I take my key. I go to my room. That's it. The entire interaction takes 3 minutes. No stories, no complaints, no expressions of flexibility, no announcements about special occasions or departure times, just a straightforward transaction. And here's what I've found over decades of traveling this way. I get better rooms, I pay lower prices, I have fewer problems. And on the occasions when hotels do offer me complimentary upgrades, I receive them because the hotel chose to offer them, not because I asked for them. This entire approach comes down to understanding something fundamental about how markets work. In any exchange, information is power. The party with more information, the party who appears less eager, the party who seems more informed, that party gets better terms. Always. Hotels are businesses with thin margins trying to maximize revenue. Their staff are trained sales professionals working to upsell guests. This is not evil or wrong, it's just business. But as a consumer, your job is to protect yourself from paying more than fair market value for the services you receive. Every word you say at check-in is information. When you announce problems, you create opportunities for paid solutions. When you express flexibility, you receive bottom-tier inventory. When you volunteer personal information, you open yourself to targeted upselling. When you appear uninformed, you get charged more. The alternative is to be a conscious, informed, strategic consumer. Know what you booked, know what you paid, know what you should receive, provide minimal information, stay professional and brief, treat check-in as a transaction, not a social interaction. Because the principles are universal, informed consumers pay less than uninformed consumers. Detached buyers get better terms than emotional buyers. Strategic negotiators achieve better outcomes than passive participants. The hotel industry is a $40 billion market built on information asymmetry and sophisticated selling techniques. Your defense is knowledge, strategy, and discipline. Know what you're paying for. Know what things should cost. Know how the game works. That's the real lesson here. The person who understands how the market works pays less and receives more than the person who doesn't. Every single time. And now you understand how hotel check-ins work. So the next time you walk up to that front desk, you'll know exactly which words to avoid and exactly how to protect yourself from unnecessary charges.